what's good, cannabis investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan, and today we're coming at you with This Week in Cannabis News from July 8th to the 14th. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it, as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn more how to take advantage of this opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos. And then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. Try to think of these videos as a time capsule. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the U.S. cannabis industry, identify top U.S. MSOs that you keep seeing pop up that you think will be worth more in the future than they are now based on their current market caps, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so. We're going to start with a recap of July 4th, as apparently we saw a sales surge of 32% from one technology company known as Jane. Now, keep in mind, e-commerce sales means sales over the internet. And from my understanding in the U.S., especially in legal states like Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, you can only sell cannabis through adult use dispensaries, right? So is it misleading to say e-commerce sales surge when they technically just mean adult use sales surge? Let me know in the comments. I could also be wrong. I'm not exactly sure. But top states include Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, with flower and vape products leading the way. So a bit more detail just to highlight is rec-only sales surged by 32%, up to 4.7 million total this past year from 3.5 million last year. While on Wednesday, July 3rd, total rec sales reached 7 million, indicating a trend of pre-holiday shopping. And so top 5 products: flower, of course, vapes, edibles, pre-rolls, and extracts in Illinois, Pennsylvania, Maryland, California, and Florida, according to them. While 2024 leading states, I think this is just generally overall, you got number 1, Michigan, 2, New Jersey. Pause to read if you're interested. Then I'll scroll down a bit. So you got Illinois and Canada. And again, take that with a grain of salt. That is from Benzinga and Jane Technologies, but looks promising, as many Americans want to vote for legal cannabis with their dollars and celebrate their Independence Day, right? Well, cannabis sales growth surprisingly lifts in June in more Western markets than Eastern markets. And so interesting times, but no doubt July will be a moneymaker for most, if not all. Western markets, though, to highlight: Arizona, yikes, minus 10.6%. Sequential or month over month, and then minus 13.8%, while California up 1.6% month over month, 2.5% year over year, would likely indicate that the price of flower overall is going up in the West, which is good for us. Colorado, and also the time of the year for it, up 1%, down 3.3% year over year. Nevada up 3.1%, up 13% year over year. And Oregon at 0.3% sequential and 2.4% year over year from this point in time last year. While Eastern markets, invite you to pause to read the juice here, but main thing to highlight: 2 markets like Florida and Pennsylvania, both medical only. Pennsylvania falling a little bit, but nice to see Florida still growing. And then annual growth for most. Massive. Of course, Maryland just turned on for adult use. We're waiting on Ohio. Michigan is just a behemoth, continuing to grow, while Missouri, Maryland, and Illinois will certainly bounce back in July. And worth noting that Illinois just reached, I think, $1 billion in total sales for 2024 already. Worth noting that in 2022 they did 1.8 billion, and then 2023 they did 1.9, and so certainly 2024 they're likely going to break the 2 billion mark with new new dispensaries that they've approved that have come in online in the last few months as well. And with that, from Ohio, an update: we're still waiting on these shops to friggin' get the green light, which is so annoying and frustrating. But thank you, Mike, whoever this guy is, creating an interactive map showing the locations of the dual-use dispensaries in Ohio. This map helps identify which companies will have the least competition. Check it out and share. So this is an image of it. I'm going to put the link in the comments. But yeah, main thing is you can zoom in and then get a nicer or closer look at it. But yeah, whoever this is, thank you for doing that. And so just to give you an idea, yeah, essentially that's how it's going to work. And it's got a little grid down here with colors to help coordinate which ones are possibly operated by MSOs that you're invested in. And with that, just a reminder, all of you, that the wheels are in motion. And so do not fret. Enjoy your summer. Plan accordingly for your own situation. In light of the HHS medical and scientific determinations and OLC's legal advice, the Attorney General exercised his authority under the law to initiate the rulemaking process to transfer cannabis to Schedule III. It's already started. We just have to trust in it. And this points back to the official release we got on May 16th, 2024. So while this is nothing new, it serves more as a reminder to try and block out all the noise and the day-to-day stock price action and just focus on what the businesses are doing and how well they're positioning themselves for 280E to be removed and then new states coming online, especially Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida. And we're basically just in limbo here, waiting as we've never been here before. And so I think that's friggin' exciting, and you should too. Nonetheless, that highlights that almost 30,000 comments and 10 more days to go, And the main thing is that obviously most of the comments, as anyone can tell if they go through them, are positive and overwhelmingly positive, which is testimony to the plant. Well, thank you, Jungle Java, for sharing a guide to the rulemaking process for anyone that might be interested. It's prepared by the Office of the Federal Register, and she's found it useful. So if you want to dig a lot deeper, it's got before the proposed rule, some important questions, the proposed rule, before the final rule, the final rule, and after the final rule. So you might get some theoretical timelines in there, 11 pages in this document, but ultimately I'm just choosing to trust in the process more or less, and think we're going to get to the same outcome ultimately. Well, Dougie Cass is back. We've known him as the one of the most bipolar traders in this industry, but he's told from his Washington, D.C. contacts that the comments on the rescheduling were modest. I will continue to view with near certainty that rescheduling of cannabis will be announced shortly after the comments period ends in 10 days. So, again, we have no certain timeline, but Dougie Cass, someone much more plugged in than us with a lot more money than us, if he's saying that we're going to get some sort of announcement shortly after July 22nd, which is when the comment period ends, interesting. I'll keep my eyes open. Let me know what you think in the comments about that. And then ultimately this one from H.L. Mencken, 50 million institutional shares of MSOS are apparently created and outstanding. Now, this is from Fintel. I don't think it's all Dougie Cass. So take from that what you will, but it makes me optimistic to see smart money starting to buy at least since the beginning of this year because they know it's an election season. And history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And no doubt, if you're a seasoned investor that has done well, you understand the principle of buying low and selling high. And so just more foreshadowing, if anything, because election years are always more exciting than the rest. Well, last one from the Dales reports just on this topic. I hate to bring up anything talking about SAFE because we've been led on and screwed by schmuck so many times on it. Just going to play this clip, though, from an interview that the Dales report had with BP from Cresco Labs, I believe, on the topic. So take it from him because he certainly knows more than I do.
We've had, a lot of conversation pertaining to this, and we've had lobbyists like Don Murphy on recently. He came out with a pretty bold tweet today that basically says he believes both rescheduling and safe banking will pass prior to Inauguration Day, which is January 20th, 2025. Now, I know that there's
claim, Don. We all hope you're right.
Catch-22 with that. How much momentum will this create in the event rescheduling were to happen at some point in the fall? Like, it's got to...
I'm hoping more than we could even possibly imagine, especially if both sides realize the freedom issue that this really is, but...
I got to believe that domino effects will, start happening or start occurring, would they not?
Yeah, it does. Listen, I've talked to a lot of Republican members of Congress that have said, come back to me when cannabis is in Schedule 1, right? I mean, Schedule 1 suggests, from a law enforcement perspective, that it's the worst of the worst. You can't do any worse than Schedule 1, right? It's heroin. It's worse than fentanyl, right? And so what they said to me is they would have a much easier time to go back to their constituency as Schedule 3 when there's a federally recognized medical benefit to cannabis, when they say it's not as dangerous as fentanyl, to have a more enlightened conversation about where cannabis should be as part of the federal narrative. But so I see a lot easier conversations. I see a lot better chances of attaching SAFE to other bills, people letting it go when that happens, or Republicans letting it go when that happens.
It's annoying to hear that we needed rescheduling before SAFE could ever even possibly happen. So all these dangled carrots were exactly that. But long story short is why this time could be different. That rescheduling is not in the hands of Congress because we could never trust them to get anything done. Fortunately, it's in the hands of the agencies of the DOJ and the DEA. And typically, while these agencies have worked against cannabis in the past, they have no logical reason or scientific grounds to now because the government just admitted that cannabis is medicine. And so, with that, on to the studies, baby. So, first one, big one, should be plastered on every fucking media outlet. Realistically, Georgetown University, especially... just because it's so obvious. The impact of rec cannabis legalization on intimate partner violence. So this is the full thesis. It's 34 pages. I'll put the link in the comments, but findings speak for themselves, and it's just the logical conclusion that you'd come to. Using data from 2013 to 2019, I find that legalization of rec cannabis results in a substantial decrease in rates of intimate partner violence. A substantial decrease. And how is this not a massive public health victory? How is this not beneficial for societies, for families, for the outcomes of kids in the long run? Like, it's just so stupid how prohibitionists have been able to reign for so long with just a little bit of funding and way too much overconfidence. Well, from PubMed, all the links will be in the comments. Cannabis oil and neurodegeneration from molecular mechanisms to clinical benefits from July 2024. So pretty fresh. Now, I think this is just highlighting that they need to do more research on it, but the main reason why they would is that NDs, neurodegenerative disorders, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's, MS, and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, are severe and life-threatening conditions in which significant damage of functional neurons occurs to produce malfunction of psychomotor functions. Now, existing therapeutic options for NDs are only symptomatic relief and do not address the root-causing factors, right? It's a Band-Aid, it's not a solution. Such as protein aggregation, oxidative stress, and that buzzword with cannabis, neuroinflammation. Well, the good thing is cannabidiol is a non-psychotic natural cannabinoid obtained from cannabis sativa that possesses multiple pharmacological actions, including antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and neuroprotective effects in various NDs and other neurological disorders, both in vitro and in vivo. So it obviously implies that cannabis could be a better medicine for these disorders than what currently exists in the market. And so need more studies on this. We want outright descheduling, but with that, on to the next one. Springer link, update on cannabis in human sexuality from July 8th, 2024. Interesting. Rationale, objectives, and results. Invite you to pause to read. We'll read a snippet of this. It appears that the frequency of cannabis use in humans has been associated with the frequency of sexual activities. Individuals who use cannabis more frequently tend to report higher levels of sexual activity. Moreover, there is a notable gender difference in how cannabis affects sexuality. I imagine if you were to study alcohol and sexuality too, alcohol would still be through the roof, which is just drunken hookups, though. I could be wrong. In addition, we found lower doses of cannabis to be linked to heightened sexual desire and enjoyment, so the dose is obviously important. Overall, the association between cannabis and sexuality is complex and warrants further research to understand the psychological and neurological mechanisms that underlie the effect of cannabis on these sexuality functions and the implications for sexual health. So it certainly doesn't make it more difficult or lead to possible altercations like alcohol does. And so I think that's basically just another big checking off the box of how cannabis is certainly safer and more beneficial in ways for society than alcohol would be. While cannabis use and incident, and I'm not against alcohol, everything in moderation, but cannabis use and incident atrial fibrillation in a longitudinal cohort. And so you can pause to read the background, objective, and methods, but what that means essentially is an irregular and often very rapid heart rhythm. So that's certainly concerning if you're not used to it too. The purpose of the study was to examine the association between cannabis use and lifetime atrial fibrillation risk. And a pretty large study, 150,000 plus participants, and they were followed for a mean period of 6 years. The good news, and a large prospective cohort study, I'll put that link in the comments too, but it seems like there was no evidence that cannabis use, especially consistent use, was associated with higher risk of atrial fibrillation. So an irregular heartbeat doesn't necessarily stem from cannabis use over time. Now, more studies should be done on this, but that seems to be what it says, so love to see that. Well, from TLRY Medical announces scientific study on medical cannabis for patients over 50. And so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'll put the link in the comments, but main thing they found, under medical cannabis guidance and care, the medical cannabis for older patients study shows correlation with improvements in pain scores, sleep, and quality of life in a still growing subset of patients. A significant reduction in co-medication was observed as well. That's very notable. Big Pharma won't like that, indicating that the treatment with medical cannabis, or just the female cannabis plant in itself, the magical plant, can be a cost-effective option for this population. And so more here if you wanted to pause to read, otherwise full links in the comments, but we got more to go through. Well, this one from the Journal of Education, Health, and Sport, exploring the efficacy of cannabinoids in the management of multiple sclerosis. And it's kind of a counterproductive one because it's an article, not even really a study, telling us what we already know and that we ought to deschedule. Published June 21st, 2024. These just seem so pointless. Like, why don't we just get studying on humans already and figure out how effective this is, especially compared to other medications that we clearly know already have side effects, because so pointless, this one really. Purpose: the review evaluates the efficacy and safety of cannabis extracts in treating MS, enhancing understanding of their benefits and limitations. Now, state of the knowledge, what we already know, studies suggest that cannabinoids may alleviate MS symptoms, particularly spasticity and pain. Great. Clinical trials have shown significant reductions in muscle stiffness and pain, along with improved sleep quality, which pretty much says what we know is that cannabis works almost better than a lot of what people end up using. While meta-analysis by this group, and I'll try and find this analysis just to pull it up to figure out what the side effects are, support the findings that the medicine works, but highlights the risks of side effects, which may limit long-term use. And so, conclusion, it works, but there are some side effects, and because cannabis is stuck in the Schedule I, we can't research it. Like, we haven't seen this before. Why do we just waste these resources, and why don't we study these on humans already, at least in places where cannabis is legal, like Canada or legal states. Well, last one from Germany, at least just updating us on what's to come. Will cannabis be the new ibuprofen? Grass is running out apparently, and what a botched hand from AI on this one. See, AI is not really that good or that promising as people want us to think it is. But good news is that since April 1st, cannabis is regulated as the equivalent of ibuprofen in Germany since it was removed from their narcotics list. Therefore, all 418,000 practicing doctors in Germany can prescribe it. The demand is accordingly high. And this is according to David Hend, founder of pharmaceutical supplier Canna Medical, talking about the rapid demand, doctors' acceptance, and competition that they're seeing. The medical market consisted of 100,000 patients beforehand. In the last 2 to 3 months, that number has doubled to 200,000. And they assume it'll grow. We need that sort of growth in Florida. And so take from that what you will. We know that they're not cultivating it in Germany, so they're likely going to have to bring it in from Canada. And they've got 2 suppliers, at least, that can do that, TLRY and Aurora Cannabis. Doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight, but we also know that they realize that the black market is benefiting the most from not launching a commercial market too. And so that is likely in the plan. So you can pause to read or grab the link in the comments if you are interested. But back to the U.S. for general news from Anthony Varell. As Business of Cannabis reports, a hemp-killing U.S. farm bill, so basically the new farm bill, which doesn't seem to have that loophole anymore, which could effectively wipe out 90 to 95% of the gas station weed industry, which I think is for the benefit, because while we know that the female cannabis plant certainly has medical potential and why we should study that to find it, we don't know the side effects of this derived stuff that is not the same as the Delta-8 THC. Progresses through congressional committee, and so I'll put this link in the comments if you wanted to go through that, but I'll update you as the situation moves along, because while it seems nice that we have them in our scope, and this would be a big win for the legal adult use cannabis industry, providing the essential medicine versus what these guys are doing, still up in the air, and lots can happen. The timing of that is more important than ever, because we get this update from CBS News Miami. After Governor Ron DeSantis vetoed a bill that would severely limit and regulate their industry, hemp execs pledge $5 million in donations to the Republican Party of Florida, according to WhatsApp messages reviewed by CBS News' Miami's Jim DeFeed. And so that seems like a big conflict of interest, as hemp execs effectively give them $5 million for keeping that industry alive, and estimates put the hemp industry in Florida at around $10 billion. And I don't think it's taxable, is it? Can't imagine it is. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments. But again, just how much bigger the legal industry will likely become if we can get a little bit of control on the hemp industry there. But with that, legal adult use sales that are sold through medical dispensaries for this past week in Florida from the Office of Medical Cannabis Use, July 5th to the 11th. And so we'll go through that. But first, just to highlight, as Goldflower Cannabis opened the loan shop in Ocala, and qualified patient count has jumped up to 884,531, with a very limited number of doctors supplying those. But man, once that turns on for adult use, after we find out in November, it's going to be a beautiful thing. But for this past week alone, total flower sales in ounces by company, you can pause to read. Before we move on to total THC sales in milligrams by company, you can pause to read. Of course, Trulieve dominating. Total CBD sales in milligrams by company, pause to read. Trulieve not dominating there. But total dispensing locations by company, Trulieve will continue and likely always dominate there. And so, good news as Trulieve pumps another $100 million into campaign to legalize rec cannabis. Is that good news, though? I don't know. We want it to be good news. We want it to mean a sure thing in November, which unfortunately we'll only find out then. But yeah, apparently they've given another $100 million. Smart and Safe Florida noted the donation that covers contributions and spending from June 29th to July 5th. And so hopefully this will help offset whatever is pushing DeSantis to be against this. But the good news on top of that is from a recent one, July 8th, Florida cannabis legalization bid headed to victory, a poll suggests. And so while all we can do is speculate literally until November, while I have shared this poll already, I'm basically just resharing it. And man, these news sites are so annoying. They cannot get out of your face with these ads. But last month, separate poll from Fox News showed 66% of voters indicating they were for it. And then I think the most recent one, conducted June 26th to 24th, showed 64% of 1,065 people that were questioned, which ultimately produced more than 63%, which is needed in order for the ballot initiative to become law. And so imagine that. You got the governor trying to make sure this does not show up on the ballot against freedom, and the freedom to smoke the miracle cannabis plant, but he wants you to get shitty gas station weed. He doesn't want you to get access to that. bought and paid for like the rest of them, and at least we get to see his true colors over time, because especially when his only excuse is the whole state's going to smell like weed, when no, it won't. And then secondly, you're actively trying to make it so that Floridians can't vote for the issue that they put on the ballot themselves, and you claim to stand for freedom? Make it make sense. While Trulieve Cannabis Corp 2 holds second quarter earnings call on August 6th at 8:30 a.m. before the market opens. So we'll have two MSOs. I think it's Green Thumb and Verano on Monday, August 5th, then Trulieve on the 6th, and then I think it was the 7th, Wednesday, which we're going to have Curaleaf and someone else. While Trulieve to open medical cannabis dispensary in Gulf Breeze, Florida this week. So they're not holding back, tagging on yet another dispensary and pushing hard for the yes on 3. So love to see that. But then again, we get this press release as Trulieve announces opening of an affiliated medical cannabis dispensary in Pennsylvania. So not Florida, but they continue to open in markets that will make a difference for them in time. And so love to see that, especially as they focus on what they can control and not the noise. While Green Thumb continues Florida expansion with the opening of 2 Rise dispensary locations in Tallahassee on July 12th. So that's 3 new dispensaries this week in Florida alone, 2 for Green Thumb, 1 for Trulieve. So details here if you wanted to pause to read, but you'd love to see it because all they're thinking is long-term, preparing to expand their footprint while it's still cheap, especially before adult use turns on. So love to see them and Trulieve both doing it. Links will be in the comments if you're interested. While a few more MSO earnings, TerrAcend hosts second quarter 2024 earnings conference call on August 8th after market closes. And so keep that in mind. Less than a month away, while the cannabis company to report second quarter 2024 results on August 8th as well at 8 a.m. Eastern time before the market opens. And so less than a month away, we'll see how much closer to profitability not only the tier 1s are, but also the tier 2s. While from the Dales Report, another one of these awesome articles. Thank you, Bill McNarland, for writing this up. The levered free cash flow margin as newly cash flow positive U.S. cannabis MSOs trade at a multi-year low stock prices, which is true. Especially when you consider the fact that at peak February 2021, MSOs were trading at much higher valuations, insanely higher valuations compared to where they're at now, yet the companies now are much bigger, have many more retail footprints, are making much more revenue, many of them keeping more profit. And so what is free cash flow margin and why does it matter? It measures the percentage of revenue remaining after a company has paid its operating expenses, interest on debt, and capital expenditures. And so basically after you've paid all those things, how much cash do you actually have left over for anything? The cash left over can be used to pay down debt, buy back shares, or even pay dividends in the future, but the opposite is true. If you always have a negative balance, eventually you need to take on debt or offer more shares to compensate. So definitely good to know. Pause to read if you want to learn how to calculate it. The main thing, I'm just going to go through this. Now, the charts below show 2 separate data points. I'm only seeing one. So, Bill, I'm not sure if you want to update this with an image that has 2 charts. But first, they rank the companies by their leverage free cash flow margin. Higher is better. And so, obviously, these operators stand to benefit more than the ones lower on the list. The second chart shows the improvement over their last year. I would love to see that. I just don't for whatever reason. But main thing to highlight is we can see those who are in the best position with leverage free cash flow versus those that are in the worst. And I can see that 2 of my lottery tickets are down here, though I'm not concerned because I think they've done everything else in their power in order to ensure that when new markets come on and with a lack of debt, they'll be able to survive the next 12 to 18 months, but also can see that I own Cresco and Trulieve that are certainly healthy in this margin. And so take from that what you will. Full link in the comments. Oh, and then he does talk about why are US MSOs down with all this progress? Because the business is not the share price. That's my short answer. But with that, from Canna Investments, a few more state updates. The clearest indicator I've seen that enforcement measures in New York are working, which is a nice update. Adult use sales went from 46 million in May to 71 million in June, with just 1 new store opening in that time. That's pretty impressive. 113 stores currently open. And so that makes it for an improved 852 million annual run rate as of June. So, hey, New York making small steps and improvements in the right direction. Happy to report that, at least. Still a long way for them to go, though, I imagine. While update out of Pennsylvania, as adult use weed is not in the PA budget for 2025. That sucks, delaying hopes of cannabis advocates. Unfortunately, it's behind a paywall, so I will put the link in the comments, but a bit more from Hirsch. Senate President said legalizing rec cannabis was one of several things Shapiro highlighted in his budget address, but did not advocate for at the negotiating table. So I guess the only person we can blame that on is Governor Josh Shapiro. But the good news is apparently no more 280E for medical cannabis businesses in PA. And so while they don't get adult use, yeah, unfortunately, Or maybe it was in the 2024 budget, so I could have been wrong in misspeaking and saying the 2025 there. So maybe it'll be pushed to 2025. All that to say is at least they will be able to deduct 280E in PA. So those who operate there medically will stand to benefit. Well, I had to share this one from Michigan because I found it. It's an older one, but bipartisan bill would simplify medical business licensing. I think this is a step in the right direction because ultimately, is there really even a difference between rec and medical cannabis? It's just how you use it is the difference. As a new bill would align all medical cannabis regulations with those of recreational usage. And so says it will make it easier for both dispensaries and the state if the laws are streamlined into one, as they're going to take this thing from 2016 and then this thing from 2018 and merge them. Streamlining and simplifying these laws is a win for everyone involved, from businesses to patients to regulators. By modernizing the regulatory process, we can help businesses cut costs and increase efficiency. And so this is going to be interesting. Apparently, it was referred to the Committee on Regulatory Reform, where adjustments might be made to either bill before being sent to the House for vote. But I would love to see this go into effect, because this would be the first state to kind of get rid of the whole rec and med labels and just treat the commodity for what it is. A fantastic plant that can be used in moderation for either rec use at night to help you sleep, or for medicine for whatever purpose. And so it'd be very interesting to see how that would play out. We'll keep you updated. Well, from MJ Biz Daily, Delaware to allow medical cannabis operators to pivot to adult use for a measly $200K. It seems like a lot. Bit of a racket, actually. But apparently, adult use sales will begin by April 2025 if he signs bills recently passed by the legislature, and one of the bills would allow medical operators to convert to rec after a fee of this. And so take from that what you will. The main thing is we just need these bills signed, and while they legalized adult use April 2023, hurry the fuck up so those in Delaware can get access to a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative. What are you waiting for? And so with that, an update out of Switzerland, as first findings of Swiss cannabis pilot show shift towards safer consumption methods because they're available for once, I would imagine. All that to point out, I know that these pilot programs have apparently been going well in Switzerland, helping pave the way for the progress we've seen in Germany. Over 700 people are now reported to be enrolled in the study, which is designed to include up to 4,000 participants, so well short. I wouldn't consider that a success. Around 80% of those taking part so far identify as male, and almost a quarter are aged between 23 and 27. So just for young dudes that want to smoke weed, and fair enough, need more women in there. But all that to highlight, long story short, trends towards lower risk forms of consumption. Likely still flower dominating, while consumers want safe, high quality products. And that is why I believe the adult use market in the US, the legal adult use market that we're already seeing and that we're all invested in, is going to beat the loophole bullshit cannabinoid derived hemp market. It will win because we want safe, high quality products. And that is what matters. Quality at the end of the day, really, I think. And so link in the comments for everything that we've gone through. Well, apparently a new one. Take this with a grain of salt because we've seen these before, but German legal cannabis market projected to reach 4.6 billion by 2034. That's not great, in my opinion. It took Canada like maybe 5 to 6 years to reach the 4 billion mark, which means it would take them 10 years to get there. That's dumb. So anyways, take from that what you will. But while I've shared many high projections, I'm also going to share some lower ones because at least then the odds of the projections of being beaten are actually better. But so this comes from the Niche Research Institute, whoever that is. So, but with that, last few stories. Tweet from Roger Stone, who obviously we know is close to Donald Trump, and whether or not he would influence the Republicans on possibly running for states' rights or any just sort of way that highlights, hey, cannabis is a personal freedom issue. No shit. An easy way for you to steal the issue from the Dems. Long story short, though, this is in response to a nothing burger, GOP lawmakers pushing the Justice Department to reverse course on rescheduling. But thank you, Roger Stone, for having common sense, as cannabis helped my father in his epic struggle with cancer by both easing his pain and giving him an appetite. And he talks about the benefits of rescheduling. Now, I'm not exactly sure if it's going to set up a federal regulatory system for medical cannabis. It shouldn't. We should just get outright descheduling because the plant in itself, in moderation, is either a rec tool or a medicinal tool. But the main reason I pulled this up is because We Street 420 did some digging, and Roger Stone is a witness in a lawsuit against the federal government aiming to challenge the classification of cannabis as Schedule I drug. And here's his testimony. Now, I thought this was a big deal until I scrolled through it and saw this was from 2017. So I'm just sharing this. Let me know if you know more in the comments or what this could possibly mean going forward. All I knew is I didn't realize that someone so close to Trump had pro-cannabis views, and especially if both sides run on the issue being either a states' rights issue or a freedom issue compared to having to right the past wrongs and, giving those harmed by the war on drugs their life back. Regardless, both sides running on this will be massive for the plant because it'll not only normalize it at a faster rate, but it'll just help put the discrimination to bed, especially as we'll get 280E removed when Schedule 3 goes into effect. And so, fascinating times, folks. I hope you're as excited as I am. But this does highlight also just the bullshit that goes into putting cannabis in the CSA in the first place. And you could argue that the CSA in itself was bullshit. And we have to put something that's actually more scientific based because clearly there was no scientific basis in that. But all that to point out, Nixon did have close aides who have gone on record sharing or admitting that it was all basically a racist war on humans and not a war on drugs or anything like that. So if you're interested, of course, you can dig into this a little bit deeper. Sad reality that, main reason why we do want to right the past wrongs and fix all that, but we also want cannabis because it's a freedoms issue and a states' rights issue, right? No doubt, we should have always had it. But last few things to highlight, Toby Cannabis, red wave thesis for cannabis is intact. So if any of you are getting nervous, keep in mind this does not include 280E being removed when scheduling goes into place. This is just new markets coming online or that have the potential to come online to add to the bottom line profits that will continue to grow as 280E is taken off from existing MSOs. And so with that, though, got to share this interesting development as it looks like the Dems want to replace Biden, and we have basically a Democratic palace coup happening under our noses. And so let me share this.
Breaking this hour, New York Times reporting donors have told the largest pro-Biden super PAC that roughly $90 million in pledges are now frozen if Biden remains at the top of the ticket. But this may only be the beginning. Reports claim a coordinated Democratic rebellion is set to unfold during a brutal 48
or a coup, that's how you, another word for it.
8-hour stretch for Biden. An 18th Democrat lawmaker just called for Biden's exit 90 minutes ago. Now we're learning that President Biden privately met with White House Minority Leader Jeffries after his solo press conference last night, where he made several embarrassing mistakes.
And so talk about coordinated corruption right before our eyes. The Dems basically freezing their assets until Biden steps down, until they get another candidate that they think can possibly beat Trump, because as the days go by, Biden continues to embarrass himself. And the fact that he's still even the president, he should have been taken out by his family 2 years ago, because at this point it's just really elderly abuse. Main thing though, who do the Dems think can beat Trump? I don't think they have any candidate that can. RFK, if anything, if they were to side with him and bring him in, he could possibly do it, but they won't. That leaves Newsom, Michelle Obama, Big Mike, or potentially Kamala Harris. Now, I don't think any of those three would. Apparently, Vegas odds and polls are indicating that Kamala actually has better odds of beating Trump than Biden does at this current point in time. And so what does that mean? Are we going to see him replaced with a new face of rescheduling from, say, August to November? Or a new face, especially a black woman, to end the racist failed war on people? I don't really care who does it at this point, but let's just have a good laugh at Kamala while we're at it.
Think about what that means.
Please.
And
do
so
the right
I
thing.
think about...
Come on, Dems.
Because think about it. And every day then think about this. And when you think about it, just think about it. Just think about it.
It's going to go horribly.
And think about it.
Why do I have so much faith?
Because just think about it. Because just think about it. Think about it.
I guess it's because Schedule 3 is not in the hands of any of these idiots. That's why I have faith.
Think about that.
Fuck.
And let's think about it. I eat and drink no for breakfast.
What the fuck kind of drugs is she on? So do you think the Dems are going to switch Biden up with Kamala? And if so, how soon will they do it? And if not her, who do you think it might be? But that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you next week for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great weekend, everybody.